it's okay to not tell everybody your business. It's okay to not even tell most people your business. It's okay to only tell one person about your business. 31 lessons that I learned in 31 days. So, man, this one is one that I always knew, but it just became abundantly clear. When you have to be careful who you tell your business to in general. I mean, I'm talking about like good things, bad things, indifferent things, the things you're going through, the things you want to do, the things you aspire to do, because not everybody has your best interest at heart. However, I think the hardest thing for me in realizing that and dealing with that is that sometimes the people who don't have my best interest at heart are not being malicious about it. It's just it I know like triggered is like a trigger word, but it's real, right? It's things do trigger us. And so sometimes people are triggered by something that you are achieving or striving to achieve or just got. Um, and they may not even be aware that they started acting differently towards you or have felt some type of jealousy or whatever it is inside. Sometimes they do know though, but it's like I've learned that sometimes they don't know, and so then the way that they react after the news is told to them from you sometimes is unconscious. And this was hard to learn because as I was going through um, the insane things that I was going through, health wise, uh, things like that with, especially with my dad, when my dad was literally at death's door, um, I knew I couldn't talk to anybody. Um, it took me a minute to find the people that I could talk to because I needed to talk to somebody. Because normally I would talk to my mom, but she was going through it too, like this same situation. And then she was going through it at a different level because that's her husband, and she was the one at the hospital day in and day out, you know what I mean, and things like that. So even though I saw and experienced a lot, she saw and experienced 1,000 times more than I did. So it's like, I don't want to vent to you about how dad almost dying or it looks like dad is going to die affects me because it's affecting you so much, even though I know that she would have sat there and listened to me. But seeing what I saw and knowing that she saw more than I did and experienced more than I did, I didn't feel right talking to her about it. So of course I had my husband, but there's just something about me, like I can talk to my husband about most things, but it's just like sometimes I just need that good camaraderie. Like I need my girls, right? So once I found the people that I could talk to, I did, and it was good. But it was just like I had to go through that process of figuring out who I could or could not trust. And until I figured out who I could and could not trust, um, it was just either my husband or I just didn't say anything. Because that's the other thing. I was compartmentalizing a lot because I had to take care of so much. Because, my mom's, main focus was my dad. And then my focus was the two of them plus all the other millions of things that they do. So I had to compartmentalize for a lot of it. So I wasn't even talking it through or talking my feelings about it through for a very long time because I had to keep my composure. Um, and also because, like I've said in other videos, I don't know where I'm going to put this one, but my dad is also a pastor. So even though the church was aware that he was very, very sick, the church was, and the members were aware that he was in a hospital for a long time. Because I mean, he wasn't at church for like months at a time. So it's like you can't hide that from them. But my mom and myself and the CFO of our church, who is literally like a brother to me, we more or less decided to not disclose 100% of everything because we didn't want people to go into mass hysteria because that also could happen. Mass hysteria and then gossiping, and then people will take one little itty bitty piece of a nugget of information and run with it, right? So it's just like, And that's just human nature. I'm not talking about any of our members like talking down on them, and they know this, and they've actually openly admitted, because my dad is better now. He did not pass away. It literally is a miracle. The doctors have literally called him a medical miracle. But um, my dad did share closer to 100% of what was going on. Of course, a lot of it was graphic, so of course he's not going to share everything. But he shared a lot more was going on once he came back to church and got his strength back. And I had people tell me like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I would have done if I would have known that information." And we're like, "We know. That's why you didn't know." Right? So that's one side of it. That's one side of it that I learned. It's just because people will sometimes um, don't know how to respond, don't respond in the best way. And then sometimes they either maliciously or not will take one piece of the story and just run with it. And, 2 minutes later, the whole country knows. And my dad is floating in space. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the story will be so off from where it was. So that's one side of it that I learned specifically on dealing with, hard things. The other part of that is um through all of this, so I am an entrepreneur. I do multiple things. As my dad says, I'm a serial entrepreneur because I do multiple things. Um, but with my video production company, I actually made the decision to stop production for a minute. I want to say maybe 6 months, because I mentally and emotionally could not deal with everything that comes with running a production, because all of my energy was being spent on taking care of my parents. And then also I have a husband and 2 kids at home, right? So it was just like, it was either there or there. And I was it. I didn't even have energy for myself. So I made the decision painstakingly to stop production. And I had told my production crew, not like mine, like I owe them, but the individuals that are a part of the production crew that is a part of my production company. And we are fairly small. So, they had known when I realized that when my dad got sick, that it was like, oh, he's gonna be sick for 2 weeks and he'll be better. When that realization went away, I was upfront with them, and because I think if you ask them, some of them might say I over communicate, but I value communication. So when I realized that this was not going to be a short battle, I told them, I was like, hey, so my dad is really sick. Um, so production may go down to the whatever. Luckily, they all have other jobs and or their own like video or photography production company. So it wasn't like my company was their sole method of income, right? So that did make it easier to stop, because I would have felt so bad if I would have stopped it. You know what I mean? But anyway, so they kind of knew what was going on, um, not to the extreme of what it was, but I was upfront with them like, hey, so there's a lot going on. It's getting worse. I can't handle this. Right. So and they were very, very open and receptive. I am thankful that I have such great relationships with the people that help me with production for my company, and they were just like, literally do whatever you need to do, so I was thankful for that. So other than them, other than my husband, other than the 2 people I would consider my best friends, I did not tell anybody else that I was not doing production through my company. Like, I didn't make a grand announcement on Facebook. I didn't even send an email to my clients. And I think I mentioned this in another lesson video, but I just said that there were a couple like small things that would have taken like maybe 2 hours on one day to do or whatever. So I was doing very small things, but I did not do production. So when they would send me in emails, I would say my calendar was full, which was not a lie. My calendar was full. Hospital visits, doctor appointments, all this other stuff. It just wasn't full of production stuff, but it was full, so it wasn't a lie. So I felt comfortable saying that, and I would just say, my calendar was full. And I made that decision because this does go along with not telling everybody your business. Because one, what I was going through was very personal, and on just a basic running a business level, y'all don't need to know that I'm dealing with my dad almost dying. Right? There was a span of like 4.5 months where I was convinced that he was not going to make it to Christmas. And then I was convinced that that would be the last Christmas that I had with my dad, and he was in the hospital. You know what I mean? So they don't need to know that. They don't need to know that. So I just made that decision because I didn't know where I was going to go with my company, because I kind of made up in my mind that I was going to reduce production for the duration of the critical part of my dad's sickness. Um, right? Because, of course, when you're like that sick, it isn't just you wake up the next day and you're better. There's like an uphill battle to getting better. So I was like, okay, I know that's going to be a process. So once he's at least functioning, I can go back to full time production. And I am blessed and thankful that I have other sources of income and a husband who is thriving in what he's doing too. So that was not um, a financial hard decision for me to make. And he was in 100% support of that. So I was able to make that decision, but I didn't tell anybody because it's just like, how do you explain that to people? And then also, I didn't want to completely sever, you know, uh, client customer relationships, so that in the event that he did get better, I didn't have anything to go back to, you know? And it's like, yeah, I could always rebuild, but it's like, I've been doing this for over 10 years. Right? It's like, I don't want to have to start from zero. Um, so I didn't, aside from my two best friends, my production crew who knew the very, very basics of it, my husband, um, my fake brother, nobody else, and his wife, of course. She's my they're my brother, my sister. Um, Not really, but you know, chosen family. But so aside from my brother, my sister, my husband, my two best friends, and the production crew, and the show stars, I forgot. So the show stars, who are the women who have shows on the app that I was producing, their shows that are on the app right now, they knew the base level information just like the production crew did, because it absolutely interrupted my timeline for producing their shows. Um, because not only do I direct everything, I do the pre-production, I'm on set, but I am the main person for the post-production. So it was like when I had to shut down, like literally could not do anything else. That means that their shows were not in production, and it pushed back the release date, which I am blessed again to have the women that I did have that I was working with, that they were so understanding of it. Plus, I made sure to keep in contact with them. And I was like, oh, okay. Because there was like a 3 week span where my dad was doing okay. He was not great, but at least he was home. You know what I mean? Of course, we had all this machinery and stuff like that to keep him alive, essentially. But at least he was home. And so there was some stuff like, I was like, oh, great. I have this, right? We can do some stuff in here, and we did. You know what I mean? So I really, really appreciate them, like to the depths of my soul. And looking back on how I got to just having those women be the people that I produce shows with in that amount of time, I'm just like, everything really does work out because, and nothing to some other people that I had reached out to produce some shows for them, but I don't think they would have been as understanding of my situation, or I would have felt as comfortable telling them as I was with the women that currently have shows. So I know that everything works out the way it's supposed to, and it did, and I'm just super blessed about that. But then the last thing is, you just really can't tell everybody because everybody is not happy for you. And maybe I'll make that into a different lesson video, but because this one's getting kind of long and I don't want to be too long. But yeah, it's okay to not tell everybody everything. You can tell different people different amounts of information because nobody is entitled to know your whole why or your whole story. Nobody is. And in this age of social media, I have seen over and over again how people feel entitled to all of the information or just information in general. And I don't think it's going to get better. I hope and pray that people start realizing that they are not entitled to other people's whole lives and, 100% of information, even if they know the person personally. But I don't think that's going to happen. But that's why I always say to people I'm connected with and everything like that, like, you do not have to tell, even to your employer. I know, when people put in like leaves of absence, or you're using your vacation days or whatever, sometimes, or a lot of times, I almost want to say all the time, there is that like why section, like you have to explain. You don't have to tell them. You literally don't have to tell them. You can say I'm just not available, or you can just say something like I'm going to the doctors or something to that effect. So nobody is entitled to 100% of your story. You can choose what you tell people, and you can choose who to tell what to. And that ain't nobody else's business but yours. So I learned that it's okay to not tell everybody everything.